Um, I want to say hello. My name is Larry Charles. Today I will be discussing a case analysis on Greta. I will touch base on if there's any moral ethics or practices concerning myself as a therapist working with Greta, being that I'm a colleague of her husband, scenario wise. The reactions that come into play towards Greta would be a bit of a surprise initially. I would question, I would mentally question why Greta would want to put me in a predicament like this with her knowing, I have interactions with her husband. I would wonder honestly if Greta was being malice in her actions or thought processes with me, wanting to give her therapy. Um, to want to seek, guidance from a friend of her husband. If Greta begged me not to reject her, I would definitely give her various outcomes of the different scenarios, as far as what with me helping her, what are the possible effects that can come from that. Um, she would know all that was at stake with the possible treatment. I would ask her how she felt about me and her husband's friendship possibly being in jeopardy if the help and therapy was to take place. If she came across selfishly, like, I don't really care about you guys' friendship, I'm just trying to um, get your help without even thinking about that, that would definitely put some things into perspective for me. Um, uh, I do feel personally, I do feel I have a responsibility to help Greta for the simple fact that obviously we have some rapport. For her to say she feels comfortable talking with me, that definitely indicates we've had multiple interactions, and I wouldn't want to downplay that. You always want to, as a therapist, um, help who seeks out help from you. Um, there would have to be a few factors in place to determine if this scenario would be considered unethical. So, one factor would be the extent of the knowledge of the relationship that if I've been given from her husband, like if her husband was telling me things about the marriage, it would definitely be unethical for me to work with her, being that I have the other side of the story. It's kind of playing both sides of the fence, and my treatment plan would be definitely affected by this. If her husband has ever disclosed personal information about the marriage, it would definitely be unethical for me to be Greta's therapist. If her husband, through work, has ever spoken of the marriage in a negative light, it would be unethical to be Greta's therapist also. An example of this would be in passing, if her husband ever mentioned he was unhappy in the marriage or him himself was thinking about leaving the marriage, it definitely would be unethical for me to be a Greta's therapist because with that knowledge, I would, knowingly and unknowingly be treating Greta or pushing Greta towards leaving him, of course, it'll be in the back of my mind, they both want to leave each other. I can't tell Greta he wants to leave her. I can't tell him she wants to leave him. So, it would just be unethical for me to basically take it upon myself and break the marriage up, knowing because I know they both want to leave each other. Um, so definitely my point of view would be influenced that way. Um, that necessarily that necessarily wouldn't be the path I sent Greta on if I did not know that knowledge her husband um, gave to me. So if her husband we never spoken, I would be trying to save Greta's marriage. But that's when the poor ethics comes in. If I had spoken to him, trying not to save the marriage because of the inside information I know. Um, uh, Even if the marriage was considered a bad marriage, I'm, as everyone is, I'm always in the practice of trying to save marriage in any kind of situation. Um, the values that I possess that will come into play um, with me treating Greta, first and foremost, would be involved her being open and honest. Uh, those values are, so basically the first approach would be Greta, she's been expressing to me how she's felt, but now, first and foremost, you have to express this to your husband. um, so Greta would be counseled by me to disclose to her husband exactly how she's feeling, even if it took having her husband come in and sit in on a joint session where I could be a support system for Greta expressing her feelings. We would definitely put that into play. Um, the values I've just touched on concerning trust would highly increase why I would want to work with Greta. I believe by her expressing her displeasures and her homesickness to her husband, that will be beneficial to her and her growth, even if she still decides to leave him. Individuals must always communicate positively their emotions and conflicts. It's just a more healthy way of life, and all therapists feel this way. A conflict greeter is more than likely having uh, is loyalty to her husband. Would be loyalty to her husband. Um, if she felt, I'm sure there was a process with her being not a U.S. citizen. I'm sure there was a process for her getting her citizenship and marrying her husband, and I'm sure it took some effort on her husband's part. Now, I wouldn't want. She personally might feel leaving him would make all the efforts he put into them getting married and her coming to the States, that all that will go unappreciated. If this was the situation, her her therapy would definitely involve me advising her not to stay in the marriage purely because she's feeling some sense of loyalty. Some things that would get in the way of me providing help to Greta would be if she's not fully cooperative with the help. If she was fully committed and open um, to trying suggested plans of action, if she was not. Many individuals like to hear plans of action, but when it's time to actually execute them, they're very hesitant for whatever reason. Another possible obstacle could be if Greta is being influenced by some outside entities. For example, if her family members were they could miss Greta in Norway, so they could not their they could have selfish feelings and want Greta to come back and not necessarily be trying to save her marriage, and they could be pushing her opposite of my therapy, telling Greta leave him and come home. Um, so again, that would be an obstacle that would come into play with my treatment. I would definitely like to thank you for listening to my Greta case analysis and enjoy your evening. Thank you.